In a small, quiet town nestled between gentle hills and winding rivers, there was a community center where people gathered to share music, laughter, and stories. The building wasn't fancy, just an old brick structure with a warm, cozy hall. Inside, wooden floors that creaked slightly when people walked, and large windows that let the sunlight spill in during the day. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else, and life moved at a slow and comfortable pace. Every week, a man named Mr. Harris came to this community center. He was the local music teacher. His real job was teaching music in the nearby school, but he loved his town so much that he volunteered here too. Mr. Harris was in his late 50s, with silver hair that curled slightly at the edges, and glasses that always slid down his nose when he was excited about something. He had a gentle smile and a soft voice that made even the shyest students feel at ease. One day Mr. Harris decided to start a choir for beginners. His idea was simple: bring together anyone who loved to sing, no matter their age or experience, and create a friendly group where they could learn and perform songs. He believed that music was for everyone, and this choir would be a place where people could forget their worries, find joy, and maybe even discover a new talent. On the first day of auditions, people trickled in one by one. There was Mrs. Campbell, a retired school librarian who loved old folk songs, and young Tim, a high school boy who wanted to overcome his fear of singing in front of others. There was a bus driver named Sam who had a deep, rich voice but no formal training, and a shy teenager named Lily who barely whispered when she spoke, but wanted to sing loudly in the choir. Each person brought their own story and hope to the room. Among all these hopeful faces sat a woman who hardly spoke. She was middle-aged, with soft brown hair tied back simply, and plain clothes that didn't attract attention. Her name was Maria Torres. She arrived quietly with no fanfare and chose a spot in the back row. She never raised her hand or volunteered for anything. She seemed to be just another face in the crowd. A simple woman who liked music but was not interested in standing out. Maria was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. She carried a small bag with sheet music and a worn notebook, where she carefully jotted down notes during practice. She helped others find their pages, and patiently explained musical terms when someone was confused. But when it came to singing, she stayed silent, letting her voice blend softly with the others. Her tone was pleasant but unremarkable, or so Mr. Harris thought. Mr. Harris often watched Maria with a mixture of curiosity and gentle puzzlement. She never said much about herself. She never talked about her past or her life outside the choir. To him she seemed shy and maybe a little unsure. Sometimes, during breaks, he would try to strike up a conversation, asking how she had found the choir or if she liked singing. Maria would smile politely but keep her answers short. There was a quiet dignity about her, a calmness that made her seem content to just be part of the group without drawing attention. The choir rehearsals were a mix of laughter, learning, and occasional frustration. Many in the group were beginners and struggled with notes or timing. Mr. Harris was patient and encouraging, always reminding them that the goal was not perfection, but joy in music. The room often echoed with warm voices trying their best, some better than others, but everyone united by their love for singing. Maria's role seemed small but steady. She was the helper, the quiet supporter. When someone missed a note, she would hum softly to guide them back. When others stumbled over difficult passages, she was there with a reassuring smile. No one expected her to take a lead role or to sing solos. In fact, most assumed she didn't want to. One chilly afternoon, as autumn leaves fluttered outside the community center, Mr. Harris made an announcement. The town's annual cultural gala was coming up in a few weeks, and the choir had been invited to perform. It was a big event, a chance to showcase local talent in front of the whole community. Mr. Harris was excited but also nervous. He wanted to choose something special, something ambitious, to show how far the choir had come. He chose a piece that surprised everyone, an opera solo from Puccini's Turandot. It was famous for being very difficult, full of challenging notes, and powerful emotions. Most of the choir members looked at each other nervously. They were not trained opera singers, and the piece felt overwhelming. Some whispered to each other about how impossible it was. Mr. Harris was aware of the challenge, but believed in the spirit of the group. He opened the floor for auditions, hoping maybe one or two people could rise to the occasion. One by one, people tried. The bus driver Sam gave a strong attempt but couldn't reach the highest notes. Young Lily sang with heart, but lost her way in the middle. Mrs. Campbell gave it a shot but couldn't hold the long, sustained notes. Each attempt ended with applause for courage, but little hope of success. Finally, in a casual moment during rehearsal, Mr. Harris joked, "Well, if anyone else wants to try, now's your chance." Most laughed nervously, not wanting to put themselves forward for such a difficult piece. To his surprise, Maria slowly raised her hand. The room grew quiet. Some people whispered and glanced at her, unsure whether she was serious or just joking. Maria smiled gently and said, "I would like to try. I just need a little time to prepare." No one expected much. Mr. Harris nodded and agreed to let her try next practice. He figured she would probably struggle like the others, but he admired her courage. Maria left the room with a quiet confidence that intrigued those who noticed. That week, the choir buzzed with curiosity about Maria. Who was this quiet woman? Who suddenly wanted to sing such a difficult opera piece? Some speculated she must be joking. Others hoped she would surprise them, but no one really knew. On the day of her audition, the room was filled with anticipation. Mr. Harris watched closely as Maria stood in front of the piano. The pianist played the first few notes softly. Maria closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. What came out of her mouth was unlike anything anyone expected. Her voice was strong yet smooth, powerful yet controlled. She hit every note perfectly, expressing the deep emotion of the opera with ease and grace. It was as if the music was flowing naturally through her. The choir members listened in stunned silence, their mouths slightly open in amazement. When she reached the final, highest note, the room seemed to hold its breath. Then, as she finished, a moment of silence followed before the choir erupted into applause. Mr. Harris felt tears prick his eyes. He had never heard such a beautiful voice before, not even in his professional life. He approached Maria, still in awe, and asked softly, "Where did you learn to sing like that?" Maria smiled, a hint of sadness and warmth in her eyes, and said, simply, "I used to do this professionally." The quiet woman in the back row was not just a beginner or a shy singer. She was someone with a hidden past, a story that no one in the small town could have guessed. And this discovery was only the beginning of a journey that would change everything for her and the choir. After that astonishing day when Maria surprised everyone with her incredible voice, the small choir at the community center was filled with a new energy. People kept talking about her performance, replaying in their minds how that quiet woman had suddenly transformed into a powerful opera singer. But Maria herself remained calm and quiet, not boasting or drawing attention to herself. She simply smiled and continued to attend rehearsals as before, though now the choir looked at her with a mix of curiosity and respect. Mr. Harris, the music teacher, could hardly believe what had happened. He was thrilled, but also nervous. The town's annual cultural gala was coming up fast, and the choir was expected to perform. Originally, he had planned something simple, but after Maria's remarkable audition, he felt inspired to give the group a real challenge. He chose a piece from Puccini's Turandot, one of the most famous and difficult opera solos in the world. It was a song that required incredible vocal skill, perfect control, and deep emotional expression. Most of the choir members were amateurs with little formal training, and many wondered if they could even attempt such a piece. The choir room buzzed with nervous excitement and quiet doubt. At the next rehearsal, Mr. Harris explained his plan. "We will perform this solo for the gala," he told the group. "I know it's difficult, but I believe with practice, we can make it happen." Some smiled hopefully. Others looked skeptical. No one wanted to disappoint, but the pressure was clear. As the choir started practicing, it quickly became obvious how tough the solo was. The notes were high and powerful, the rhythm tricky, and the emotion intense. Many members struggled to keep up. Tim, the shy high school boy, found himself stumbling over the fast sections. Mrs. Campbell, the retired librarian, tried to hold the long notes but lost her breath quickly. Sam, the bus driver, sang with heart, but couldn't reach the highest notes. The room filled with half-formed melodies, missed notes, and frustrated sighs. Mr. Harris did his best to encourage everyone. "Take your time," he said gently. "It's not about perfection yet. We're learning. Keep going." The choir practiced every week, slowly getting better, but no one was ready for the solo. The piece felt too big for the group. One day, after a difficult rehearsal, Mr. Harris said with a half-smile, "Well, if anyone else wants to try the solo, now is the chance." It was meant as a joke, a way to lighten the mood. But to his surprise, Maria raised her hand again. The room went quiet, and people exchanged surprised glances. Some whispered to each other, wondering if Maria was serious this time. Maria nodded gently and said, "I want to try, but I need some time to prepare." No one expected much. They remembered how stunning her first audition had been, but thought the piece was too hard for even her. Some wondered if she was testing herself, or maybe just being kind to the group. Mr. Harris agreed to let her try, but inside he was curious and a little hopeful. During the following days, the choir members noticed changes in Maria. She started, arriving early and staying late after rehearsals, practicing her solo quietly in a corner. Sometimes she hummed the melody softly to herself, or traced the notes on her sheet music with careful fingers. Her face was serious but peaceful, like someone reconnecting with a forgotten part of themselves. Others tried to sneak peeks at her practice, but found she was too focused to notice. The choir room, usually noisy and full of chatter, sometimes grew still when Maria sang, as if everyone was holding their breath. The beauty of her voice filled the space, soft and strong, perfect and warm. As the weeks passed, the rest of the choir continued their own rehearsals. Mr. Harris worked hard to prepare the group for their parts, while Maria focused on the solo. The small community began to buzz with excitement about the upcoming gala. Posters went up around town, and people started talking about the event as something special. But not everything was easy. Maria sometimes seemed lost in thought, her smile fading for moments. When Mr. Harris gently asked if she was all right, she would only say, "I'm just remembering old times." She didn't explain more. Some of the choir members noticed a quiet sadness beneath her calm surface. One afternoon, during a rehearsal break, young Lily approached Maria shyly. "How do you make it look so easy?" she asked. "That song is really hard, but you sing it like it's nothing." Maria smiled softly and looked at Lily with kind eyes. "It's not easy," she said quietly. "It takes a lot of practice, and sometimes you have to remember why you sing. That helps you find the strength." Lily nodded, feeling inspired but still unsure if she could ever sing like that. Mr. Harris watched these moments with growing admiration. He realized Maria's gift was not just her voice but also her humility and kindness. She was helping the choir believe in themselves, even as she prepared to shine. One evening, as the gala date grew closer, Mr. Harris called the choir for a special rehearsal. He wanted Maria to try singing the solo in front of the group, to give everyone a sense of how the performance might feel. The choir gathered nervously. The room was quiet except for the soft tuning of the piano. Maria stood in front, took a deep breath, and began to sing. Her voice filled the hall with beauty and power, weaving through the notes effortlessly. The choir members listened in awe, their eyes wide with wonder. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Mr. Harris smiled proudly. "That was incredible," he said. "Thank you, Maria." Maria bowed her head slightly and said, "I hope I can do it on the big night." The days flew by. The choir practiced late, into the evenings, growing stronger together. The small town began to buzz with anticipation. News spread that a remarkable singer was among them, a woman who could bring opera to their humble stage. But for Maria, the gala was more than a performance. It was a chance to face her past, to step back into a world she had left behind long ago. She wondered if she was ready for that challenge, if the old fears would stay hidden or come rushing back. The simple woman who had once sat quietly in the back row was now preparing to sing a song that was known around the world for its difficulty. The whole town was waiting to see if she could make magic happen once more. And deep inside, Maria felt a mix of fear and hope, a fragile spark of courage that she hadn't felt in years. The day finally came when Maria was going to sing in front of the choir, but this time it was not just a practice. It was a full dress rehearsal for the upcoming cultural gala. The small community center's hall was filled with the quiet hum of voices, rustling sheet music, and the soft tuning of the piano. Everyone was there. The choir members, Mr. Harris, a few curious neighbors, and even some family members who had heard the buzz about Maria's incredible voice. Maria stood at the front of the room, dressed simply but neatly, wearing a dark blue dress that made her brown eyes shine with calm determination. She was not nervous. Instead, there was a quiet confidence about her. She looked around at the familiar faces, feeling both comforted and focused. The pianist began playing the delicate opening notes of the opera solo, the famous aria from Puccini's Turandot. The room grew silent. Everyone knew how difficult this piece was. It required power, control, and deep emotion. Maria closed her eyes for a moment and took a slow, deep breath. Then she opened her mouth and began to sing. The voice that came out was nothing like anyone expected. It was rich, smooth, and clear. It filled the room with a warmth and strength that seemed almost magical. Her singing was perfect in every way, hitting the highest notes with ease, controlling the soft and loud parts perfectly, and expressing every emotion that the music called for. It was as if the music itself had come alive through her voice. The choir members stopped what they were doing and stared in amazement. Mr. Harris's eyes filled with tears. He had never heard anything so beautiful in all his years of teaching. Even the neighbors and family watching were silent, their faces showing surprise and admiration. Some whispered to each other, "Who is she really?" When the final note echoed through the room and faded away, the silence held for a moment. Then the applause broke out. People stood up and clapped, some with tears in their eyes. Mr. Harris stepped forward and said softly, "Maria, that was incredible. I never imagined. You're amazing." Maria smiled gently, her cheeks slightly flushed but calm. She looked around and said quietly, "I used to do this professionally." The room was filled with a stunned silence. Everyone had assumed she was just a quiet, simple woman who liked to sing with the choir. No one knew she had once been a professional opera singer, someone who had performed in grand theaters across Europe. After the rehearsal, people gathered around Maria, eager to learn more about her story. She sat down with Mr. Harris and shared a little about her past. She told him that her real name was Maria Bellini, and that she had trained in some of the finest music schools. She had performed in famous opera houses in Paris, Milan, and Vienna. Her voice had once filled enormous concert halls, and she had been praised by critics and audiences alike. But Maria also told a story of pain. A few years earlier, she had lost her husband in a tragic accident. The grief was so deep that she stopped singing publicly and moved away, hoping to find peace in the quiet town. She changed her name and lived simply, avoiding the spotlight. Singing in the choir was a way to reconnect with music without the pressure of fame. Mr. Harris listened with respect and kindness. He understood why she had hidden her talent and why she was hesitant to return to the stage, but he also believed that her voice was a gift that deserved to be shared. As the days passed, news of Maria's story spread through the town. People felt proud and amazed that such a remarkable talent was living among them. The choir's rehearsals became even more focused and energized. Everyone wanted to support Maria and be part of something special. Maria continued to practice every day. Sometimes, when she was alone, she would close her eyes and remember the grand theaters, the applause, and the excitement of performing. But she also remembered the sadness that had driven her away. Singing for the gala was not just a performance, it was a chance to heal. One afternoon during a break, Mr. Harris approached her and asked, "Are you ready for the gala?" Maria looked thoughtful. "I want to be," she said softly, "but I'm not sure if I can face such a big crowd again." Mr. Harris smiled gently. "You don't have to do it alone. We're all here with you. The choir, the town, we believe in you." His words gave Maria a quiet strength. She realized that this was not just about her past or her pain. It was about sharing her gift with a community that loved her. The gala night grew closer, and the choir worked harder than ever. They practiced not just the solo but the whole performance, supporting each other with laughter and encouragement. Maria's voice became stronger and more confident with every rehearsal. Finally, the night arrived. The town auditorium was packed with people eager to hear the choir, and especially Maria's solo. The air buzzed with excitement and a little nervousness. Backstage, Maria stood quietly, her heart pounding but her mind clear. She knew this was her moment. When the choir finished their group songs, it was time for the solo. The lights dimmed, and the spotlight focused on Maria as she stepped onto the stage. The music began softly, and Maria's voice rose, powerful and beautiful, filling the hall with a sound that touched everyone's hearts. The audience was spellbound. Some closed their eyes to savor the music, others wiped tears from their cheeks. Maria sang with passion and grace, her voice telling a story of love, loss, and hope. When the final note faded, the hall erupted into applause, cheers, and a standing ovation. Maria smiled, tears in her eyes. She had found her voice again, not just as a singer, but as a woman who had faced her fears and rediscovered joy. Mr. Harris watched from the side, proud and grateful. The quiet woman from the back row had become a shining star, reminding everyone that sometimes the most extraordinary stories are hidden in the simplest places. After Maria's breathtaking performance at the town gala, the atmosphere in the community was electrified. People who had come to watch the event were still talking about her voice days later. The news spread beyond the small town, reaching nearby villages and towns. Maria, who had once been just a quiet face in the choir, was now the center of attention. But surprisingly, she did not let the sudden fame change her. She remained humble, kind, and focused on her singing and helping others in the choir. The choir itself blossomed. Inspired by Maria's example, members practiced with new energy and confidence. They began to believe in themselves more, seeing that ordinary people like them could achieve extraordinary things with dedication and heart. Mr. Harris was proud beyond words. He had always known Maria's talent was special, but he now saw how her spirit and humility lifted the whole group. Maria continued to take part in every rehearsal, not just singing but encouraging others. She helped the shy ones find their voice, taught the beginners how to breathe correctly, and shared small tips on expression and emotion. The choir became more than just a music group. It became a family. One day after rehearsal, a young woman named Sarah, who had recently joined the choir, came to Maria. Sarah had a beautiful voice but lacked confidence. She told Maria about her dream to become a professional singer but admitted she was scared of failing. Maria listened carefully, then shared her own story, how she once stood where Sarah stood, filled with dreams but haunted by fear. "Fear is natural," Maria said softly, "but you must let your love for music be stronger than your fear. That's how you grow." Sarah smiled, feeling hopeful for the first time. This simple advice stayed with her, and she began to practice with more passion. Meanwhile, Maria's past life slowly caught up with her. A talent scout from a nearby city had heard about her performance and wanted to meet her. He was impressed and offered her an opportunity to perform in a big concert hall. The invitation was exciting but also frightening for Maria. Returning to a professional stage meant facing the life she had tried to leave behind. She spent many sleepless nights thinking about the offer. On one hand, it was a chance to revive her career and share her gift with a wider audience. On the other, it meant stepping back into a world filled with memories, both good and painful. Mr. Harris noticed her hesitation and gently encouraged her to follow her heart. "Whatever you decide, know that we are proud of you here," he said. After much thought, Maria accepted the invitation. She realized that the love for singing inside her was too strong to ignore. The next weeks were busy. Maria traveled to the city to prepare for the concert. She worked with new coaches and rehearsed long hours. It was challenging, but her passion kept her going. Back in the town, the choir missed Maria but supported her from afar. They sent messages of encouragement and looked forward to her return. The community was proud that one of their own was going to sing on a big stage. The night of the city concert arrived. The grand hall was filled with an elegant audience, music lovers, critics, and professionals from the opera world. Maria stood backstage, dressed in a shimmering gown. The lights dimmed, and she walked onto the stage, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. As the orchestra began to play, Maria's voice soared through the hall, strong and clear. She sang with the depth of emotion that comes from life's joys and sorrows. The audience was captivated. They applauded loudly at the end, and Maria felt a deep sense of accomplishment. After the concert, Maria received many offers for performances and recordings. Her career was rising again. Yet, despite the success, she never forgot the small town and the choir that had given her a second chance. She returned often, singing with the choir and teaching new members. She wanted to share not just her voice but her story, how music could heal, bring people together, and help overcome fear. The town grew more vibrant with music. The community center became a place of joy and inspiration. People of all ages joined the choir, inspired by Maria's journey. Parents brought their children, and elderly residents found new friends. The simple woman who once hid her talent had become a symbol of hope and courage. Maria's life had come full circle. From a professional opera star who withdrew from the world, to a quiet choir member rediscovering her voice, to a shining star inspiring others. Her story was a testament to the power of music and resilience. She often thought about the day Mr. Harris asked her to sing that difficult opera solo. That simple question had changed everything. It reminded her that sometimes life's biggest opportunities come when we least expect them. And when we are brave enough to say, yes, her voice, once hidden, was now a gift to many. And in sharing it, Maria found not just success but peace and happiness. The days after Maria's return to her hometown were filled with warmth and excitement. She was no longer just a visitor coming back for a short time. She became a permanent part of the community again, but this time as a mentor and a star who inspired everyone. The town that had once only known her as a quiet woman in the choir now celebrated her as a true opera star who had come back home to share her talent and her story. Maria felt a deep happiness that was different from the applause and bright lights of the big concert halls. This happiness came from seeing the joy she brought to others, from hearing new voices grow stronger and more confident every day, and from being part of a community that had supported her when she needed it most. Her life had changed in many ways, but her heart remained humble. She continued to attend choir rehearsals, but now she also taught voice lessons to those who wanted to learn. People from all around the town signed up to learn from her. Children, teenagers, and adults who dreamed of singing but never had the courage to try. Maria made it clear that talent was not the most important thing. What mattered most was love for music and willingness to work hard. One morning, a shy young boy named David came to her after choir practice. David had always been nervous about singing in front of others, but he loved music deeply. Maria saw his hesitation but also his potential. She knelt down and smiled at him gently. "David," she said, "every great singer started just like you, nervous but full of dreams. Let's take it one step at a time. You can do this." David nodded slowly, feeling a bit braver. Maria worked with him patiently, helping him find his voice and build his confidence. Over the months, David's singing improved so much that he started to look forward to every rehearsal, and even volunteered to sing small solos during concerts. This was the kind of joy Maria loved to see. For her, it was not about fame or awards anymore. It was about touching lives through music and helping others discover their own voices. The choir continued to grow. New members joined regularly, and the community center was filled with laughter, music, and friendship. The annual gala became a huge event, with audiences coming from nearby towns to hear the choir and Maria's special performances. People felt proud to be part of something so beautiful and uplifting. Maria also began organizing special workshops, inviting professional musicians and singers to come teach in the town. These workshops became very popular, opening new doors for local talent. Some young singers started to dream bigger, hoping one day they could follow Maria's footsteps and perform on grand stages around the world. As Maria's story spread, she was invited to speak at schools and community gatherings. She talked about her journey, the joys, the heartbreak, and the courage it took to return to singing after losing so much. Her words inspired many people to face their own fears and follow their passions. Despite all this, Maria never forgot the difficult times. She often spent quiet moments reflecting on her past, remembering the pain of losing her husband and the loneliness she had felt when she stopped singing professionally. But those memories no longer weighed her down. Instead, they gave her strength and a deeper understanding of life. One evening, as the sun set over the town, Maria sat by the window of her small house, holding a photo of her husband. She whispered softly, "Thank you for giving me the courage to sing again." It was a moment of peace, of healing. The townspeople saw Maria as a symbol of hope, proof that even in the hardest moments, life could bring new beginnings. She had shown them that it was never too late to follow your dreams, to rise after falling, and to find joy in sharing your gifts with others. Maria's journey came full circle when she was invited to direct the town choir. She accepted gladly, bringing her experience and passion to every rehearsal. Under her guidance, the choir's performances became more powerful and moving than ever before. Her story also caught the attention of a documentary filmmaker who wanted to capture the inspiring tale of a woman who had hidden her talent but found it again in the most unexpected place. Maria agreed, hoping the film would encourage others to believe in themselves. The documentary was shown at film festivals and community events, touching hearts far beyond the town. People wrote letters and emails to Maria, thanking her for sharing her story and inspiring them to chase their dreams. Maria stayed grounded through it all. She knew that true happiness was not in fame or applause but in the simple moments. A child's first confident note, a friend's smile after a tough rehearsal, the sound of voices joining together in harmony. Years passed, and Maria grew, older, but her voice remained as beautiful as ever. She continued to teach, to sing, and to inspire. She knew that the true gift of her life was not just the talent she had been born with, but the chance to use it to bring light and hope to others. Looking back, Maria realized that the moment when Mr. Harris had asked her to sing that difficult solo had changed everything. It had been a small question with a big impact, opening a door she thought was closed forever. Her story reminded everyone that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden inside the simplest people, waiting for the right moment to shine. And so the quiet woman who had once sat in the back of the choir room became a legend in her town, a true opera star who lived not just for the applause but for the joy of music and the power of believing in oneself.